Welcome to the 6.9 notes. Before you start watching, make sure that you have this piece of paper, a pencil, and you've written your name at the top in the "These notes belong to" space. So first things first, this form is called point slope because those are the two things that it gives you, a point and the slope. The slope comes from the middle part right here. Just like in y equals mx plus b, m is the slope. In point slope form, m is also the slope. And then this is just my chance to remind you that slope is rise over run. We will be using that to graph it later. Then you also have a point, and that point is the y1 right here and the x1 right here. Just remember that any point is always written as x comma y. So x1 goes first, and then y1. You might be wondering what those little ones mean. They mean that they're coming from the first point. So the first thing we're going to learn how to do is graph a line. The first example tells us to graph a line that has a slope of -2 that goes through -3, 4. So our first job is to go put -3, 4 on the graph, which is right about here. Okay, keeping in mind that -3 is our x and 4 is our y. Then to have a slope of -2, that's really going to be -2 over 1, leaving -2 as our rise and 1 as our run. So I'm going to rise -2 and run 1. So from that point, I'm going to count down 2 over 1, and that is where my point goes. And the other part I'm just going to erase because it's not actually going to be there as part of my outline. And then I'm going to keep going down 2 over 1. And you always count to the right unless you have to go backwards. Like, for instance, I can go up 2 and left 1. That's counting backwards. And notice how I've filled my whole graph with these points so that then I can draw the straightest line possible through all of them. And that's your line. Let's try again on the next one. It gives us a slope of 1/3 and the point 2, 0. Again, 2, 0 is your x, y in that order. So I need to go where x is 2 and y is 0, which means it's right here. And then for a slope of 1/3, that means that I'm going to rise 1 and run 3. So go up 1 over 3, and you're going to be right here. And I can't go up 1 over 3 again. So if you run out of space, go down 1 and left 3. There are going to be some on your assignment where you don't have enough room to go up and to the right, so you're going to have to go down and to the left instead. So this is just kind of my way of reminding you that you can go backwards if you run out of space. And that's your line. Okay, we've got 2 more that are kind of like this, except for the description is a little bit different on the next 2. The third one says graph the line parallel to this line, y equals 3x plus 4, that goes through the point 4, -2. So we need exactly what we had on the last 2, a point in the slope. So I've already got the point 4, -2. It goes right here. And in order to graph a line parallel to y equals 3x plus 4, I need the same slope. That's what parallel means. So, since the slope of this line is 3, my slope is going to be 3. So, or 3 over 1. So I'm going to rise 3 and run 1. Put a point there. Rise 3, run 1. Rise 3, run 1. or down 3, left 1. And that's as much as I can fit on my graph. So I'm going to go ahead and draw my straight line all the way through. And there we go. We have to read really carefully on the next one though, because it says the line perpendicular to y equals negative 2/3 x plus 5 and goes through negative 2, negative 5. So negative 2, negative 5, we're going to go to where x is negative 2, y is negative 5. Right here. Put a point there. And then if I have a perpendicular slope, that means that I need to do the opposite reciprocal. So instead of negative 2/3, it's going to be positive 3/2. You flip the fraction and the sign. So now my rise is 3 and my run is 2. So counting from my point, I'm going to go up 3/2 to the right. I didn't mean to touch it right there. And then I'm going to go up 3/2 again, and again, and again. Notice how each time I'm going as far as I can to fill out the whole graph. And then you draw your line straight through. Go ahead and make sure you have all 4 of these before you move on to the next part. All right, here we go. So now we're going to graph each line that's already in point slope form. And I'm going to go ahead and copy down point slope form right here, just because I had to scroll past it. You don't have to write it down because it's at the top of your page. And the one thing that I'm going to point out about point slope form, now that we've had some practice graphing, is that these are both minus. But the point itself is x1, comma, y1. So those are always going to be the opposite sign. For example, on this first problem, 5 is the number that I'm actually subtracting, so x1 is actually 5, not negative 5. And y1 is actually 3, because you're asking yourself what number is being subtracted. So it sort of cancels out those negatives. And then the slope is always the number in front of the parentheses, which is negative 1. So just like the last 4 problems, I'm going to go plot the point 5, 3. So right 5 up 3. And then I need to give it a slope of negative 1. So I can either go down 1, right 1, or up 1, left 1. And it's the exact same line. And that's my line. So it's just a matter of reading point slope form and then putting that information on the graph. Now, on the next problem, you'll notice that 4 is being subtracted over here next to x. So that's your x value. But right here next to y, the only reason why it could have become a plus is if you were subtracting negative 2. So that's technically y minus negative 2 right there. So it's always going to be the opposite, and then you do need to make sure that you're always putting the number next to x first, then y. And my slope is still the number that is in front of x, so 3. Which means I put the point 4, negative 2 on my graph. Right 4 down 2. And to do a slope of 3, I'm really doing 3/1. So I'm going to count up 3/1. Up 3/1. Up 3/1. Or down 3, left 1. Remember, you can always go backwards. And there you have it. We've got one last problem. So the number next to x that's being subtracted is actually going to be negative 3. That's why it turned into a plus. And then the y part is going to be 5. So x and y will always have opposite signs of what they look like in the formula because of these two subtraction symbols right there. And then my slope is the number in front of the parentheses, which is 1/2. So I'm going to go to the point -3, 5. And to do a slope of 1/2, I need to go up 1/2. Up 1/2. Or down 1, left 2. Down 1, left 2. And then draw my line. Now, if you want help on your assignment, there are rulers available on my desk. All you have to do is ask for one.